let's talk about opportunities as I start to close the door on this a little bit. The one thing we want to definitely think about is the fact that during recession is a great time to plan for local change. And so hopefully there will be some call to arms for local businesses and government to band together and try to figure out, okay, in 5 or 10 years, what do we want to see Marin look like, and do we want to remain in a somewhat balanced economy? Or do we basically are going to see the expansion of healthcare, for example, become so dominant because of the change in the age demographic, and we're not thinking about balance beyond that? And to a certain extent, that actually sounds like maybe it's not a bad future, but it would be nice to know if that was going to be a bad future or not. One thing that's definitely going to happen is you're going to see higher education demand rise. And so that can be, you can take that, especially at your JCs and at your local four-year universities, and if you have a local research institution, that helps too. You can see that as an opportunity to say, okay, look, we now are going to a place where people are going back to school because maybe they lost their job. Where are those people going to live after we educate them? Are they going to stay local? And if so, what are we going to do to make that happen? Are we going to have businesses here waiting for them and in partnership with the JCs, with the four-year universities to basically feed into those jobs? Or do businesses even care? So we have to think about that. That's a very good opportunity regionally to consider. The other thing regionally to consider is that will this area, especially Sonoma and Marin counties, will they be seen as a scientific high-tech clustering area where there's agglomeration economies of scale to take place because of what already exists? For example, the aftermath of ILM's movement to the Presidio has left in its wake actually a budding incubator environment for high-tech firms. The Buck Institute also provides the beginnings of a research cluster in this area, especially with what is forecasted to be a surge in healthcare coming in sort of baseline services rather than healthcare research. And it just so happens, of course, that the Buck Institute focuses on aging research, of all things. So there are some really good opportunities along those lines. As an example, though, telecom kind of came and went in Sonoma County, and that's because Sonoma County wasn't ready for it. They didn't pursue it actively. It was very passive. It said, look, we got a lot of commercial space. If you want to come up, let's have it. And a lot of firms did. And when the business environment did not support them staying long-term, they left. It's that simple. Why did Genentech end up in Solano County and not in Sonoma County? Sonoma County just simply did not have the conditions under which Genentech would land there. They didn't provide enough space. They didn't provide the correct business incentives. So municipalities are going to have to think about, if I want this vision in 10 years, what is the government going to have to do to provide the incentives for that? Is it a good thing, like Petaluma does, to have a 4-year permitting process and very high fees? Or is it maybe something to do is to think about how much more quickly we can get that done so we don't push away businesses that need to build specific types of commercial space? The next thing is that when we think about the reduced cost of housing, I say this is almost in jest, that it's an opportunity, though, short term. Folks, it's not going to change around here. The cost of living here is kind of here to stay. It really just depends on how fast it rises, not the fact whether it's going to rise. And so it's a tough environment for any kind of economic development, but this is the time for it, and that's why I suggest it's an opportunity. The key aspect is that what we're going to see continuously come up, and this is going to be probably more and more in the news over time, is whether or not Marin County is economically sustainable as it sits. And economic sustainability is defined as sort of the balance between the business's bottom line, which is seen as economic efficiency, the social bottom line, which is seen as social equity, and then the environmental bottom line, which is the so-called carbon footprint of the businesses that are in the county and look to come to the county and remain. Nobody's answered this question very well. But what has happened in other counties, specifically Solano, Napa, and now beginning in Sonoma, is to try to answer those questions. What businesses are going to come to provide that balance, and when they come, what is this county going to look like in the end? And Marin needs to get on that, or Marin can easily continue on the path it's on, which is going to be an older, wealthy suburb of the city. Okay? Which may be very good for real estate, so that's actually a nice picture for you all, maybe. But consider that as far as what's coming.